Welcome back to the 5-Minute Football Fix. I'm Steven Miranda.
I'm Jeff Ellis, and it's August 2nd, 2011, and as I said yesterday, we got a lot more for you.
Today, we'll be talking about the legacy of Randy Moss.
And Osi Umenyiora plays a very dangerous word, hypocrite.
Jeffrey will also be talking about the first big injury of the 2011 season.
But, Steven, you're forgetting about the micro-celebrity of the day.
How can I forget that?
My favorite feature coming up right after this.
All right, first, Jeffrey, Randy Moss.
The legacy of Randy Moss. Friends, it began with this guy. Not in this place, somewhere else in L.A., but it began with this guy, the Rants Raves Network Incorporated. Steven Miranda got a little bug in his butt about the trade of Randy Moss back 7 NFL seasons ago, and he had to have a voice. And so he went out and he figured out how to put together a blog. Thank goodness there was blogging, or I don't know what he would have done. He would have stood up on top of his house with a megaphone and say, "People, you must listen to me." But instead there was a blog.
I would have yelled it to the world. But basically, in March of 2005, the Minnesota Vikings, for reasons unknown to me to this day, decided to get rid of Randy Moss, probably the best wide receiver in the league during this time. And what I did in the blog is I put his numbers up for his first 7 years, as well as Jerry Rice's first 7 years numbers. And they were identical. And in some categories, Moss had better numbers than Rice. And I said, how are you doing this? How are you giving away this guy? They gave him to Oakland for basically a sling of balls and a bag of chips and a couple of dollars.
And some corn nuts.
I couldn't believe it, and that's what got me started. Jerry Rice is going to be, his name's going to be said a lot. When people talk about Randy Moss, they're going to say, there's only one person who's got more touchdown pass catches. There's only one person that has more 100-yard receiving yards in a career in a season, and that's Jerry Rice. When you say Jerry Rice, you got to think Randy Moss. Randy Moss changed the way wide receivers are thought of in the NFL.
The problem, Steven, that people are going to have is that Randy Moss, especially the last several years, he was with, 4 teams in 3 years?
Something like
it was ridiculous. And they remember him quitting on plays, and they remember him seeming to alligator arm some balls and things like that, and they remember him holding his own press conference where he stands at the podium and says he's never going to talk to the media again. Well, guess who votes on the Hall of Fame, people? It's largely media, and they hate him.
You know what? Look at the numbers, and that will tell you need to vote yes. And in 5 years, Randy Moss and Brett Favre going in the Hall of Fame together, that's going to be cool.
They're going to be on the same first ballot for the Hall of Fame induction. And if those same writers can say yes to Brett Favre, guess what? They need to say yes to Randy Moss as well. We're not saying he's the same guy, but in their relative positions, they both are some of the best.
Osi Umenyiora, Jeffrey.
Oh, my goodness. He made some really strong points with claims of hypocrisy. You know what? And he says this. He emailed this yesterday to an AP writer. What really annoys me is the hypocrisy of people clamoring for my head for asking for a new deal or to be traded. He asks about where's Sean O'Hara? Where's Richard Siebert? Where's Brandon Jacobs? Those guys who've been asked to take pay cuts, or worse, they've been cut outright. Why? Because they've been injured.
Yeah. And he's like, basically, those guys still had years left on their deals. And for the first time in an extremely long time, if ever, I agree with Osi Umenyiora, Jeff. And this is why I agree with him. If owners can cut players when they still have time left on their contracts, then why does the owner feel they have the right to tell a player, you should honor your contract? You have 2 years left on it. Well, you know what? It goes both ways. If you can cut players, players can say, I am playing better than my existing contract. I need more money. I want it now.
And as long as contracts are worth nothing more than a damp cocktail napkin, that's where it's going to be. And it's time for our micro-celebrity of the day, Steven.
Yes,
very excited.
Steven Diaz-Laura says, Jeffrey, is Vic the reason why so many free agents are interested in the Eagles? Yep. There you go. For more on that, check out our podcast later today.
Finally, we have the first big injury of the 2011 preseason, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy and a more important guy to his team.
The Houston Texans reported that today at training camp, wide receiver extraordinaire Andre Johnson, Jeffrey, left practice with a dislocated index finger.
He is my favorite wide receiver in the game. A lot of people like Megatron up there in Detroit. I'm an Andre Johnson guy. On only the second day that players were allowed to even touch each other and play in pads, up till now it's been only in shells, which is shorts and big shirts. And on the second day, he's running a crossing route, and a rookie comes. Oops! And
Yep.
that's it. And his finger's busted up. He's going to be day-to-day, and we hope that he gets well soon.
Fortunately, there's still a lot of time for the Houston Texans. They can hopefully get them ready for the start of the season. I've been Stephen Randa.
I've been Jeff Ellis, and I still am.
And this has been the 5-Minute Football Fix.